ESPN had a monster, very long article with 3 writers on it contributing to this story about Dan Snyder, the owner, the much maligned, rightfully so, owner of the Washington Commanders. This is the guy who refused to change the racist logo and name of the Washington franchise for decades, said that it would never happen until he was forced to, and who has been undergoing a congressional investigation due to the misconduct within the organization, who has allegations against himself for workplace misconduct and sexual harassment, as well as just generally skeevy things that you hear about in terms of gouging season ticket holders and cheaping out on facilities. So Jalen Hurts almost got injured at the stadium, at the Washington Commanders stadium, because of the cheap materials that he uses in that stadium. So just a generally terrible guy. And people have known this for a while. And it's gotten to a point that he's had so much scandal that he's a stain on the shield. There are tons of terrible rich people in the business of the NFL. The billionaires that own the teams, I would suffice to say that there are pretty much no good billionaires. The Maras and the Rooneys, they've inherited the team, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, it takes a lot to be the worst guy in this league of 32 owners, the worst person, I should say. But Dan Snyder certainly takes the cake. This is how this article opens up here. Dan Snyder does this thing when he feels cornered, say those who know him well. He paces in a hotel suite or on his super yacht or at Riverview, his $48 million Virginia estate. Cradling a drink in one hand, he tells members of his inner circle about the dirt he has accumulated on fellow owners, coaches, executives, and even his own employees. All the stuff he's learned from other sources, including private investigative firms. He never says exactly what he knows, only that in his 23 years as owner of the Washington Commanders, he knows a lot. And that in the zero-sum world of billionaires, this is how you survive. Snyder recently told a close associate that he gathered enough secrets to, quote, blow up several NFL owners, the league office, and even Commissioner Roger Goodell. They can't F with me, he has said privately. Senior team executives and confidants have heard him say it since he was considered merely one of the worst, senior team executives and confidants have heard him say it since he was considered merely one of the worst owners in sports. Now he's facing investigations on multiple fronts and running out of high-powered allies. He alludes more than ever to his dirty work. Snyder, now 57 years old, has told associates he will not lose his beloved franchise without a fight that would end with multiple casualties. The NFL is a mafia, he recently told an associate. All the owners hate each other. That's not true, one veteran owner says. All the owners hate Dan. To me, when they say one veteran owner, this screams John Mara to me. But you also hear in this article how him and Jerry Jones were buddies. Of course, birds of a feather, and how that relationship was recently soured.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe it would be Jerry Jones saying that, but I guess you're right. You know, in terms of odious people, Jones might be one of the biggest ones as well. So he also probably likes to have like this like leech and kind of cockroach guy on his side anyways, you know.
Well, and also the dirty secret is that until he became such an embarrassment for the league and was threatening other owners with blackmail, they didn't really mind him being around. They might find him unseemly, and he doesn't seem to have any friends in the billionaire club of the 32 people who own these franchises, but he's a bad owner too, and it's an easy win against Washington for the most part in the 23 years since he's owned the team.
He essentially hits every mark on the bingo card. He presides over a racist, sexist administration. He's anti-labor. He's a cheapskate. He's belligerent. He's litigious. It's like you said. It is a high bar to clear to be the shittiest guy among the 32 NFL team owners. But Snyder has a really great case for it.
Arguably the worst owner in professional sports, period, in the United States or North America.
Maybe him and James Dolan.
I mean, the Blackhawks owner
Oh yes,
puts
yes, right.
is
Hmm.
pretty bad, but in terms of like just the litany, at least under his watch, they were at least successful as a franchise. So the one thing you're supposed to do when you're the owner of a team is lead your team to prosperity and to win a championship. And he did that, but Snyder certainly not. I mean,
I
they
believe he's won two playoff games since he took over. I believe the team has won two playoff games since he took over. In like 2002 or maybe a
yeah.
few years earlier. So it's been about 23 seasons and he has two playoff wins to show for it.
And this is not a franchise that was used to losing. Like they had Super Bowl
Absolutely.
championships. This
Joe
the
Theismann?
yeah, Joe
Yeah.
Theismann.
Yeah.
We understand that we know that story, and I believe that the Washington Commanders were the first NFL well, they were not the Commanders at this time, but Washington was the first NFL franchise to have a black starting quarterback win the Super Bowl. So they have Super Bowl trophies, but they're a shadow of themselves under Snyder. Something has to give, possibly as soon as the NFL league meetings in New York on Tuesday. Many owners and top league executives tell ESPN they would like to see Snyder removed as an owner. It would clean the slate for a storied team and a cherished fan base and reignite the pursuit for a desperately needed stadium. But there would be a price. And a reminder that, yes, the franchise has had fans, but I personally know Ben Mankiewicz, my friend from over at TYT who grew up in the Washington area, was a Washington fan growing up, just can't do it anymore. Quit being a fan of the team because of Dan Snyder as an owner. And based on the butts that you don't see in seats, based on how empty that stadium is, my guess is he's not alone because this guy's so loathsome that he makes it impossible to root for him. And I mean, look, I root for two teams owned by James Dolan, and I can still stomach it because at least he spends on behalf of the franchise and whatever. And a lot of these billionaires are bad people. This guy's that bad.
Oh, and I forgot to mention another thing to add to the bad owner bingo card is the casual association with scummy Republican politicians
Yes.
to get your stadiums built.
Are you shocked to hear that he's a Trump donor and
Oh,
supporter?
not at all. And I'm also not shocked that he's cozying up to Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin to help him pressure the Virginia State Legislature, or to have already pressured the Virginia State Legislature to establish a stadium authority under the state's control to commission a plan for a stadium in Virginia, so they can leave the stadium that they hate in
In Maryland.
in Maryland. They're the
Right.
stadium that they currently have in Maryland. So that's also on the docket for
And
Glenn
of course
Youngkin.
on the
Besides,
taxpayers.
right,
Yeah.
that's also on the docket for Glenn Youngkin bilking taxpayers with the cooperation of Dan Snyder, as well as banning gender pronouns in schools and CRT in schools. So good platform for that administration over there.
According to more than 30 owners, league and team executives, lawyers, and current former Commanders employees interviewed by ESPN, this is expansive. The fear of reprisal that Snyder has instilled in his franchise, poisoning it on the field and off, has expanded to some of his fellow owners. Multiple owners and league and team sources say they've been told that Snyder instructed his law firms to hire private investigators to look into other owners and Goodell. One source was told by Snyder directly that he has, quote, dirt on Jerry Jones, a team source told ESPN. Again, this is the other scumbag that's been kind of mentoring him throughout this. Cowboys owner. Though the nature of the information was unclear. Another source confirmed that Snyder has told a confidant that he has, quote, a file on Jones, the Dallas Cowboys owner who has served as Snyder's friend, mentor, and longtime firewall of support. And that's crumbling as well. I'm kind of skipping around here, so you don't even need to worry about it, Bradley. The potential for mutually assured destruction might help explain why Snyder has survived years of scandal, or it might merely reveal that Snyder is running out of options. He is under attack from multiple fronts. His team and employees and his own conduct has been investigated by Congress, the DEA, and the league office twice. At least 24 owners are required to force Snyder to sell his team, a fate that he has told multiple sources he will never accept, meaning he's going to tie the NFL up in litigation to make sure that this doesn't happen. An associate who has met with Snyder multiple times recently says Snyder has become paranoid about owners and league office executives and about former employees breaking their non-disclosure agreements and telling investigators and reporters what they know. Some more quotes about how Snyder's lost Jerry, his one friend in this situation. There is growing consensus around the league that despite news releases to the contrary, the Commanders have struggled to establish a more inclusive culture. And sources told ESPN they wonder if Jason Wright, the team's president and the first black man in NFL history to hold that title, has true authority to fix the team. Current and former employees say Snyder is still far more involved in running the club than most realize, imploring football decision makers last March to trade for quarterback Carson Wentz, despite a deal he made with Goodell in July 2021, when he was also fined $10 million to give up day-to-day management to his wife, Tanya.
Hey, Emma, a quick question. Do you know where Jason Wright used to work before he became general manager of the Washington Commanders? A little company called McKinsey.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we want to run the team like a business, huh?
Yeah, I guess they do.
I wonder if he has some underpaid charges making PowerPoint decks to be like, how can we make people sit on beds of nails at the games to make the construction costs for seats a little bit cheaper?
Yeah, I mean, hey, consulting, right? That's what he's consulted there. That's what his role is as team president, right? Not to make football decisions. If Dan Snyder is pushing them to trade for Carson Wentz, which has not worked out well, and everyone knew it wouldn't work out well, and he's not even supposed to be involved in the team. He's supposed to be suspended, and his wife is supposed to be handling these things. Like, he is so arrogant. He doesn't give a shit. Right? That league, he's like, this is my team, this is how I'm going to run it. This is the problem when you have a collection of billionaire owners. They feel like they're accountable to nobody, and so then you're unable to actually hold them accountable. So, I mean, this guy's...
Yeah, Jason Wright's probably more like a chief cover-up consultant.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, like how can we just continue to cover the boss man's ass, basically,
and cover up in the sense that they hired him when they were facing
like allegations of racial discrimination.
Racism.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think, and it's sad because I think I don't necessarily know for sure. Obviously, I'm not going to, insinuate necessarily that it's intentional on the part of either Wright or head coach Ron Rivera. But it just definitely seems like the way that those two have been trotted out in certain ways is kind of like tokenizing by Snyder. Hey, the head front office person right now is a black man. We have a Hispanic head coach. Everybody loves Ron Rivera. He has a really inspiring story. He fought cancer. Like, it just sometimes seems like a little bit of almost like proverbially like whitewashing the culture and the stink of Dan Snyder.
Yeah, and of course, but the fish rots, especially when this fish is this stinky. It rots from the head down.
And I think that's the other central point, is that it doesn't even matter. Like, it's not enough. Like, it's just nothing will be enough. Like,
and also because Snyder's more involved than he pretends to be.
100%.
And so that's why he's making horrible moves like trading for Carson Wentz. It's just there's more details in the story, and I'd really encourage people to check it out. But to me, this is clear that the other owners are speaking to the media. They're trying to get out ahead of this when he eventually tries to use blackmail on them. He's already used it against John Gruden. Allegedly, people heavily speculate that he was the one who leaked those racist emails sent by John Gruden to the press in retaliation for, past misgivings. And look, the Gruden family has a tough history with the Snyder organization as well. So we'll see. I think that this means that it's getting closer and closer to a coup d'etat for Snyder, but that's not going to be easy given his proclivity and given his, he seems to be unresponsive to the money thing. Like, Bezos could buy the Commanders in a second and make them profitable and actually upgrade their facilities and ensure that that there are fans that return. But money doesn't seem to be an object for this guy because he's already got a ton of money and he wants to give it to his kids. And
as we've been saying before, with these owners with either dynastic family wealth or wealth from any other source who own a team, at some point it just becomes an enormous passive income vehicle.
Yes.
The Commanders could literally go. It's almost like a paraphrase of Jay-Z's famous line. The Nets could go 0 for 82, and that shit would still be gravy. Like, it would be the same thing for the Commanders for Dan Snyder. Like, they could literally not win another football game, and he would not. It would not matter to him in terms of ownership. It wouldn't actually sink the value of an NFL team right now.
Yeah, because a rising tide lifts all boats and all the other franchises are doing so well
Exactly.
that
The
this
revenue sharing
stinker,
will keep him alive no matter what,
it doesn't
essentially.
matter. Yeah.
And if we'll recall, you said something speaking to the Gruden Snyder divide. For people who might not remember, former Commanders head coach Jay Gruden, John Gruden's brother, was unceremoniously fired after the team was not performing well, and famously, general manager Bruce Allen at the time had Jay Gruden come to the facilities at like 6 a.m. on a Monday, being like, "Hey man, you're fired. Sorry,
Yeah, right. You're
thanks
right.
for coming in so early. You're fired."
Oh, and Bruce Allen,
yeah,
by the way, part of the most toxic elements of the
absolutely.
workplace culture, caught
Like
harassing people.
harassing women. He was allegedly, drunk in the office. I think he had a few he had some issues with alcohol, things like that. And literally, it was like, hey Jay, we have a early morning graveyard shift meeting, but it's time to go.
Yeah,
Thanks, but no thanks.
you're right. And by the way, I don't think Ron Rivera is like. I honestly, I understand the fish rots from the head down, but the fact that he was hired and the fact that he threw his quarterback under the bus in public recently,
That's always a sign of discontent. It is very.
it was wrong of him, honestly, to me.
I mean,
you
for
never,
anyone,
you
even
never talk about your players in the media,
even if it's
negatively,
Carson,
ever,
yeah,
ever,
absolutely,
ever.
even if it's Carson Wentz who's not performing well, I just think there's no worse way to telegraph to your team that you don't really believe in them than actively kind of scapegoating another player.
Right.